The wind howled down the dark alley, sharp like knives. Trash bins rattled. Cold rain mixed with snow hit the pavement. Ryan pulled down the shutter of his small shop, rubbing his gloved hands. It was just another long day at his repair shop. In District 9, the refugee zone outside the human city walls, he was turning to lock the door when he heard something, a soft cry, almost a whisper. He froze and looked around. No one. Just the rustling of wrappers and an old streetlight flickering weakly above the alley corner. He was about to walk away when he heard it again. It was not wind. It was a voice. Slowly, Ryan stepped into the alley behind his shop. There, near the garbage bin, two shapes were huddled close together. His heart skipped. Small, thin figures. One was clearly trying to cover the other with her body. They looked like children at first, but their heads were shaped differently, slightly larger eyes, small ridges on the neck. Aliens. Girls. The taller one lifted her head slowly. Her lips were cracked. Her skin, lavender in tone, was covered in bruises and dirt. She met his eyes for a second, then lowered her gaze quickly. The smaller one coughed, holding her stomach, and leaned into her sister's side. Ryan did not speak at first. His body moved before his mouth did. He pulled off his thick coat and stepped closer, holding it out. The taller girl flinched, tightening around her sister. "It's all right," Ryan said, voice soft, calm. "You're cold. Take this. I'm not here to hurt you." The older girl looked at him like she didn't believe him. Then her lips moved. "Please, don't send us away," she whispered. Ryan knelt down. "I'm not sending you anywhere. Come inside. There's heat, food, a place to rest." She hesitated, then looked down at her sister. The younger girl blinked up at her, then slowly nodded. The older one helped her up, and both stood shakily. Their feet were bare. Their bodies were wrapped in torn plastic and cloth scraps. Ryan opened the back door of his shop. The girl stepped in slowly, eyes wide. The warmth inside hit their faces and they both sighed, almost in disbelief. The shop was simple tools on the wall, wires hanging. An old heater in the corner. Ryan quickly moved to grab a blanket and pointed toward a small bench. "Sit," he said. They obeyed without a word. He wrapped the blanket around them and then poured hot water into 2 mugs. He placed them in their hands and watched as they clutched the heat like it was life itself. "Names?" Ryan asked gently. The older girl stayed silent. The younger one tried to speak but coughed instead. Ryan didn't push them. He stood, went to the stove, and started heating a pot of soup. He could hear them whispering behind him in a soft, unknown language. Their voices were tired, scared. He placed the bowls in front of them. They stared at the food. The older girl finally looked up. "Why?" she asked. "What do you want from us?" Ryan sat on a small stool across from them. "Nothing." "You looked cold, hungry, that's it." She did not believe him. He could see it in her eyes. But she lifted the spoon and began feeding her sister first. Only when the younger one had eaten half did she try a bite herself. They ate slowly, like people who hadn't had a proper meal in days. Ryan stayed quiet, let them eat. Let them feel safe. Later, the girls sat together on the floor, curled in the blanket, both falling asleep near the heater. Ryan looked at them for a long time. He had no idea who they were or what they were running from. But something deep in his chest ached when he looked at them. Maybe it was the way they had flinched. Maybe it was how the younger one had reached for his hand when she thought he was walking away. He turned off the main lights, leaving only the small heater's orange glow. He laid down an extra mattress near them with more blankets. As he walked past them to go upstairs, he heard a faint voice. "Thank you," the older one whispered. Ryan didn't stop. He just nodded. Something was changing tonight. He could feel it. And he knew whatever trouble these girls were carrying, it had just walked into his life. But he also knew something else. He wasn't going to let them suffer alone again. Not while he had breath. Not while he had warmth to share. The older girl sat stiffly at the small table, her eyes never leaving Ryan's hands as he placed a fresh bowl of soup in front of her. Her sister, smaller and quieter, sat beside her with the blanket pulled tightly around her tiny frame. The steam rose from the soup in soft curls, but neither of them moved. Ryan crouched near them and spoke gently. "It's not poisoned, you." "No, I made it myself. Real vegetables, not synthetic." Still, the older girl didn't lift the spoon. She stared at the bowl as if it might bite her. Ryan leaned back, watching her carefully. "You don't trust me yet. I get that." She finally whispered, "What's the catch? What do you want from us?" Her voice was rough, tired, but there was a sharpness buried beneath it, like someone who had learned never to lower her guard. The younger one peeked at Ryan from under the blanket. Her large golden eyes looked confused and a little hopeful. Ryan didn't answer right away. He got up, walked to the small sink, and rinsed his hands. Then he sat down across from them and sighed, "I don't want anything. I just couldn't leave you freezing behind my shop." The older girl's lip trembled, but she quickly bit it to stop any emotion. She picked up the spoon and stirred the soup carefully, then passed it to her sister. "Eat slowly," she said. The younger girl took a careful sip, then another, and another. A tear rolled down her cheek. Ryan noticed. He didn't say anything. He just went back to cleaning tools at the counter to give them space. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. The room was quiet, only the sound of spoons touching metal. After finishing her share, the younger one leaned against her sister and closed her eyes. The older girl looked down at her now sleeping sibling, then looked up at Ryan. "Why are you really helping?" Ryan met her eyes. "I've seen too many people turn away, too many times. And I promised myself, if I ever saw someone suffering, I'd do something." She studied his face. "You're human," she said. He gave a short nod. "Yeah, so are you, sort of." That surprised her. A small laugh escaped before she could stop it. She quickly covered her mouth. But Ryan smiled. He walked over and handed her a clean towel. "There's a back room. It has a wash basin and old clothes, if you want to clean up." She hesitated, looking down at her dirty skin, her ragged clothes. Finally, she stood slowly, carrying her sister in her arms. Ryan led her to the room and stepped out, giving her privacy. An hour passed. Ryan waited outside the room, sipping tea, thinking, these girls were young. They had clearly been through things he couldn't imagine. Their bodies were thin, their eyes older than their years. Slavery? Abandonment? He didn't know yet. The door creaked open. The older girl stepped out, wearing one of Ryan's oversized shirts and sweatpants tied with a rope. Her hair was wet. Her sister followed, also dressed in warm clothes, holding a towel in her hands like it was treasure. Ryan stood. "You both look better now. Still hungry?" The younger girl looked up at her sister, as if asking permission. The older one gave a slight nod. Ryan brought out some bread and fruit. They ate again. Slower this time, like they believed the food wouldn't be taken away. When they were done, Ryan said softly, "You can sleep here tonight. I don't have much, but the heat works and no one will bother you." The older girl looked around the small shop. Her eyes landed on the window. "Someone always comes. No matter where we hide." Ryan's face grew serious. "Not here. You have my word." She looked at him for a long moment, then said, "My name is Lyra, and this is Mai." Ryan smiled. "Nice to meet you both." "I'm Ryan." Mai yawned and leaned into the couch. Lyra pulled the blanket over her and gently stroked her hair. "She's all I have left," Lyra said quietly. Ryan nodded. "Then you're both all I have tonight." Lyra didn't answer. She just sat beside her sister, holding her close. Her shoulders shook slightly, and Ryan realized she was crying, but silently, without sound, the kind of tears that had been waiting for a long time. He turned off the main light and lit a small lamp in the corner. The room softened into warm colors. Ryan sat back on his old chair and stared at the two figures on his couch. He had no plan, no clear idea of what would happen next, but he had opened the door once, and he knew he couldn't close it now. Not while they were still afraid. Not while they still had nowhere to go. The scream hit Ryan like a bolt. It came from the washroom in the back, sharp and sudden, cutting through the quiet morning. He dropped the wrench in his hand and rushed toward the door without a second thought. When he pushed it open, he froze. Lyra was crumpled on the wet tile floor, her thin body shaking. The water had stopped running, steam still drifting in the air. Her sister Mai stood near the corner, wrapped in a towel, eyes wide with fear. Ryan stepped forward, then stopped himself. He didn't want to scare them. "Are you hurt?" he asked calmly. Lyra didn't answer. Her arms were wrapped tightly around her stomach. Her legs trembled. A pool of water spread across the floor beneath her. Mai whispered. She stood too long. She fell. Ryan stepped in slowly, kneeling beside Lyra. He gently touched her shoulder. She flinched but didn't pull away. "Let me help," he said softly. Lyra didn't speak, but she allowed him to place a towel under her and help her sit upright. As he did, the towel slipped from her back. That's when he saw them, long, deep. Scars ran across her back, some old and pale, others still pink and healing. Marks left by whips, lashes, burns. Her skin had been torn, again and again, like someone had treated her like property, not a living being. Ryan's breath caught, but he kept his voice steady. "I see," he said. "That's why you don't trust people." Lyra turned her head slightly. Her eyes were glassy but not angry, just tired. "So very tired. They said we were bad," she whispered. "That we needed to be taught our place." Mai hugged herself tighter, looking down at the floor. Ryan swallowed hard. He had heard of slave ships passing through the refugee belts. Aliens taken from collapsed colonies, sold off to rich buyers. But he had never seen the result with his own eyes. Not like this. He picked up the clean towel and wrapped it around Lyra's shoulders with care, as if she were glass that might break again. "You're not bad," he said. They were. Lyra blinked, surprised by how sure he sounded. "Don't know what world you came from," Ryan continued, "but here, in this shop, you're not owned. You're not broken, and no one lays a hand on you ever again." A silence settled in the room. Then, without warning, Lyra's chin trembled. Her mouth opened like she wanted to say something, but only a sharp sob came out. Mai ran forward and hugged her sister tightly. Lyra covered Mai's small back with her arms and buried her face in her hair. Ryan turned away, giving them space. He stood at the door, his hand resting on the frame. This wasn't a simple rescue anymore. He had just uncovered a piece of their pain, and he knew there was more. Much more. Lyra's voice came quietly behind him. "Thank you for not looking away." Ryan didn't turn around. No one should ever look away from someone in pain. That's when they need to be seen most. He gave them time, then helped Lyra into a fresh change of clothes, an old hoodie and joggers that hung loose on her thin frame. Mai wore a tiny sweater that almost swallowed her arms, but she didn't care. She smiled faintly for the first time since arriving. Later, in the shop's small kitchen, Ryan cooked something simple: eggs, bread, and hot broth. The smell filled the room with warmth. Lyra moved slowly, her body stiff from pain, but she sat at the table. Mai followed, sitting close beside her. "You don't have to keep feeding us," Lyra said quietly, though there was no anger in her voice now. Ryan placed plates in front of them. "I want to. You don't even know us." Ryan looked at her carefully. "Do I need to?" She couldn't answer. They ate in silence. Not out of fear anymore, but out of thought. It was the first meal where they didn't glance nervously at the door. After breakfast, Ryan opened the back window to let in fresh air. The sun peeked through the clouds. He turned to see Mai sitting on the floor with a small screwdriver in her hand, curiously poking at an old toy robot. Ryan smiled. "You're interested in machines?" Mai nodded. Lyra gave a soft laugh. She always liked building things, back when we had tools. Ryan pulled over a tool tray. "You can use anything in this shop, as long as you don't break my coffee." "Machine." Mai's eyes lit up. That night, when he turned out the lights again, Ryan looked at the two girls sleeping on the couch, safe and warm. He saw the scars, but he also saw something else beginning to grow, a tiny seed of trust, maybe even healing. The bell above the shop door rang sharply. Ryan wiped his hands on a rag and stepped out from the back room, expecting a customer needing a battery or fuse repair. Instead, his body tensed the moment he saw the visitor. Tall, armored, and silent, the figure stepped inside like he owned the air. His suit was black with streaks of metal blue, polished and clean. His helmet visor reflected the dim light, and on his left shoulder, clear as day, was the golden fang symbol of the Bounty Guild. Ryan's voice stayed calm. "Can I help you?" The man didn't answer at first. He walked slowly along the shelves, inspecting wires and tools like he was wasting time on purpose. Finally, he turned and said, "Two alien girls were seen in this district. They belong to a client." Ryan kept his expression steady. "This is a tech shop, not a shelter." The bounty hunter tilted his head. "Shops often hide things, especially in the back." Ryan crossed his arms. "You're free to look at tools, not people." The hunter stepped closer. "A reward has been offered. 5,000 credits for return, double if they're unharmed." Ryan's jaw tightened. "You think you can buy loyalty with credits?" The hunter leaned in slightly. "I think credits are all most people care about here." From the stairwell behind the counter, a small sound echoed, barely a breath. Ryan heard it. So did the bounty hunter. The man's head turned slightly toward the back door. Ryan moved in his path. "You're not going back there." "Why not?" "Because I said so." For a long moment, neither man moved. The bounty hunter's hand hovered near the small device on his belt, a scanner that could read life forms behind walls. Ryan's fingers gripped the wrench tucked behind his back. Then the hunter gave a slow nod. "You're making a choice. Human." Ryan didn't blink. "So are you." The bounty hunter stepped back and walked to the door. Before exiting, he turned and said, "This is your warning. Next time, we come with more than words." The door shut with a hiss. Ryan stood still, heart pounding. Then he rushed to the back, climbed the stairs, and opened the small storage room where Lyra and Mai had hidden. Lyra stood in front of her sister, fists clenched, jaw tight. "He saw us, didn't he?" Ryan shook his head. "No, but he's coming back. We don't have much time." Mai clutched Lyra's sleeve, her small body trembling. Lyra wrapped her arms around her. "We have to go," Ryan said. "They'll bring more. Drones, trackers. Once they lock on your biosignature, they won't stop." Lyra looked at him, confused. "Why are you still helping us?" Ryan stared at her. "Because you're not property. And no one gets to drag you back to chains, not while I'm standing." A short silence followed. Then Lyra said, "Then we run." That night, Ryan cleared out the old delivery truck behind the shop. It hadn't moved in months, but the engine still worked. He loaded blankets, tools, food, water, everything they could carry. Lyra helped quietly, her movements quick and focused. Mai tried to smile, but fear clung to her like a shadow dot as they packed. Ryan asked, "What did they do to you?" Lyra kept working. "They bought us. I was 16. Mai was 9. They called us things, not names. If we didn't obey, they punished. If we cried, they punished. We escaped after a fire broke out in their holding facility." Ryan lowered a crate into the truck. "You didn't just escape, you survived." Lyra looked at him. "For how long?" Ryan met her eyes. "As long as you're with me. They don't get you back." The truck rumbled to life just before sunrise. The sky was gray, heavy with clouds. Ryan glanced in the rear mirror. No one yet. Lyra sat in the passenger seat. Mai curled under a blanket behind them. Her small face peeked out, eyes wide with hope and fear. Ryan gripped the wheel. We'll head north. I know a place. Old farmhouse forgotten by the system. Lyra whispered. We'll just be running again. Ryan looked at her. Maybe, but this time, you're not running alone. As the truck rolled through the early light, past fences, cameras, and empty roads, Lyra reached down and took Mai's hand. Then, after a long pause, she reached across and placed her hand over Ryan's. He didn't speak. He just kept driving. Ryan slammed the brakes as the drone passed overhead. The old delivery truck groaned as it stopped behind a line of thorny trees near the highway. Dust floated in the sunlight while the drone's blue light scanned the road slowly, searching. Inside the truck, Lyra held her breath, her hand tightly over Mai's mouth. The little girl was shaking, but silent. Ryan watched through the windshield, his hand gripping the gear stick like a weapon. The drone paused. Then it drifted away, humming low like a predator losing interest, only after it vanished behind the hills. Did anyone inside the truck breathe again? Ryan leaned back and wiped his forehead. That was too close. They're already scanning this far out. Lyra sat up straight. We need a new plan. The truck isn't fast enough. If they send hounds, we're dead. We're not dying, Ryan said firmly. We just need to stay. Ahead, Mai whispered. I don't want to go back. Ryan turned around and looked her in the eyes. You won't, I promise. He turned the engine back on, and they drove until the sun dipped below the hills. The small roads twisted through abandoned farms and forgotten towns. At a broken gas station, Ryan parked behind the garage. Inside the dark building, they lit a lantern. The wind made the walls creak. It smelled like rust and dust, but it was safe for the moment. Lyra helped Mai settle down in a sleeping bag while Ryan sat at the old counter, unfolding a faded map of the outer lands. We'll go through the dry riverbed tomorrow, he said. The sand will mask our tracks. After that, we head for the forest region. Lyra looked over his shoulder. And after that? Ryan glanced up. A place I haven't been in years. My uncle's land. No cameras. No scanners. Just trees and silence. Lyra folded her arms. You're risking everything. I know. She sat across from him. Why? Ryan didn't answer at first. He stared at the map, lost in thought. Then he looked at her with quiet eyes. Because when I found you both behind my shop, I saw people. Not aliens. Not trouble. People. You were shaking in the cold and still protecting your sister. That's not weakness. That's strength. Lyra's voice was low. Most people don't care about strength unless it makes them money. Ryan said nothing. He reached into his bag and pulled out a small device. It was an old military jammer, scratched and dented, but still usable. We'll use this tomorrow, he said. Blocks low-range trackers for a few hours. Lyra raised her eyebrows. Where did you get that? I fought in the border wars. Before I opened my shop. For the first time, she saw something different in his eyes. Not just kindness, but pain. A man who had lost people too. Mai was asleep now. Her small hand curled around a piece of cloth she held like a toy. Lyra lowered her voice. We've been hiding since we escaped. Sleeping under machines, stealing food, lying to everyone. But I've never seen anyone do what you've done for us. Ryan shrugged. Maybe it's because I'm tired of watching good people suffer. Later. That night, he worked on the truck, checking wires and tightening bolts, while Lyra kept watch near the window. The stars blinked above, silent and clear. Suddenly, Lyra whispered, Ryan. He looked up. Lights on the far road. Two glowing eyes. In the dark, Ryan grabbed his bag. We move now, they woke Mai gently. Ryan carried her while Lyra grabbed the gear. They didn't use the truck. They slipped through the back fields. Into the long grass dot, the engine from the distant vehicle echoed behind them. Ryan moved fast, but careful, leading them through trees and around rocks. When they reached the dry riverbed, the world turned quiet again. They walked under the moonlight, their feet sinking into the cool sand. Every shadow looked like a figure. Every sound made them pause, but they kept moving. By sunrise, their bodies ached. Their feet were sore, but they were alive. Ryan pointed to a hill. Behind that ridge, we rest, then we head north. Lyra nodded. She reached for Mai's hand and held it tight. As they climbed the hill together, Ryan glanced back at the wide, empty road far behind them. They were still being hunted, but they were not alone. Not anymore. The cabin stood like a secret at the edge of the trees, hidden beneath layers of moss and thyme. Its roof leaned to one side, and the wooden fence had long since fallen, but smoke still rose gently from the chimney. Ryan set down his bag and took a deep breath. This is it. No signals, no patrols, just woods, water, and quiet. Lyra stepped out of the trees, holding Mai's hand. The girl's eyes grew wide as she stared at the old cabin. Is this really ours? Ryan looked down at her. It's been empty for years, but now it belongs to us. Mai ran toward the porch, bare feet kicking up dry leaves. She touched the wooden wall like she didn't believe it was real. Lyra stayed back, her arms crossed. It's safe? Ryan nodded. No one knows it's here. Not anymore. She looked up at the sky. The sun was warm, the birds louder here. No engines, no scanning drones, no shouting voices, she whispered. I've never seen a place so quiet. They went inside. Dust covered everything, but sunlight poured through the broken window in golden stripes. An old cot leaned in the corner. A table, 2 chairs, and a cast iron stove waited like forgotten friends. Mai sneezed from the dust, then laughed softly. Lyra covered her mouth in surprise. It was the first time in weeks her sister had laughed out loud. Ryan pulled open the back door and pointed to a rain tank and a water well. We'll clean this place up, fix the roof, maybe even grow food here. Lyra looked around. You've done all this before? He shook his head. No, but I'll learn. By afternoon, they had swept the floors, opened the windows, and carried fresh water inside. Ryan lit the stove, and the cabin began to feel warm in more ways than one. Lyra found old clothes in a chest and gave Mai a faded red sweater. The girl twirled in it like a dancer, arms stretched wide. It smells like firewood, she said, smiling. That night, they sat on the porch steps. Ryan peeled potatoes with a knife while Lyra boiled them. Mai sat between them, watching the trees move in the wind. Lyra spoke quietly. She's never had a real home. Not one that didn't come with chains. Ryan didn't answer right away. He looked at Mai, who was humming softly now. Then he said, Neither have I. Lyra blinked. What do you mean? Ryan leaned back against the wall. I fought in 2 wars, lost friends. Came home and opened a shop because I didn't know what else to do. I've been surrounded by machines for years. No family, just noise. She stared at him. So why did you open your door that night? He smiled without looking at her. Maybe because it finally felt like the right time to stop being a ghost. She didn't know how to answer that. After dinner, Ryan taught Mai how to light the fire safely. She giggled when the flames caught, warm and bright. Lyra sat nearby, watching quietly. Her face still carried shadows, but something in her eyes had changed. Later, when the moon was high, Ryan stepped outside alone and walked to the edge of the woods. He listened. No footsteps. No drones. No threats. Only wind and distant owls. Back inside, Lyra tucked Mai into a soft blanket on the cot. Then she turned to Ryan. She's sleeping peacefully, she whispered. She hasn't done that in years. Ryan looked at her. She knows she's safe now. Lyra's voice cracked. It doesn't feel real. He stepped closer. Maybe because it's the first time in a long time you're not running. Lyra looked down. I'm scared it'll end. That someone will find us again. Ryan placed a hand gently on her shoulder. Even if they do, they'll have to go through me first. She stared at him, unsure whether to cry or smile. The fire crackled behind them. The cabin walls held tight. And in that quiet space, for the first time since their lives had been shattered, Lyra allowed herself to hope. Not for escape, but for a real future. The door shattered inward with a blast of sound. Wood cracked, dust exploded into the air, and the peaceful cabin was filled with chaos. Mai screamed from her bed. Lyra leapt to shield her, pulling her sister behind the stove. Ryan was already moving, grabbing the old hunting rifle from under the table and rolling behind the wall near the door. Voices outside barked commands. Heavy boots thudded across the porch. At least 2, maybe 3 bounty hunters. They had tracked them even here. Ryan's heart pounded, but his hands were steady. He knew how to hold a line. He had done it before in battles far worse than this. One of the hunters stepped inside, scanning with a rifle light. We know the girls are here. Bring them out, and you walk free. Ryan stood slowly, rifle aimed. They're not going anywhere. The hunter froze. You're protecting property. That's illegal. They're not property. They're people. The second hunter entered, aiming fast. Ryan dropped low and fired once. The shot hit the wall above their heads, forcing both men to duck. Lyra grabbed Mai and crawled into the back pantry. Ryan shouted, "Stay down, don't move until I call you." The hunters regrouped outside. Ryan used the moment to slide a cabinet in front of the doorway. His arm burned from the effort, but he didn't stop. Outside, the first hunter barked orders. A flash grenade clattered inside. Ryan kicked it under the table and covered his ears. The blast shook the windows but didn't break his focus. "I've fought worse than you," he shouted. "You want them? You'll have to carry me out first." Then came silence. It stretched long enough to make Ryan sweat. Then footsteps walked away. He waited. 1 minute. 2. He peeked outside through the shattered door. Gone. He stepped out carefully. The bounty truck had vanished into the forest. The footprints led away into the hills. Ryan didn't relax. He stayed on alert for another full hour. Then he returned inside. Lyra was cradling Mai, whispering soft words in her language. When she saw Ryan, her eyes filled with tears. Not fear, relief. "You stayed," she said. "Of course I did. They could have killed you." "They didn't." Ryan knelt beside them. "You're not my guests anymore. This isn't just shelter." Lyra blinked. "You're my family now," he said. "I'm not giving you up. Ever." Mai sat up. "Does that mean I can call you something?" Ryan smiled. "What do you want to call me?" She looked shyly at her sister, then back at him. "Can I call you Dad?" His throat tightened. He nodded. Lyra looked away, but a tear escaped down her cheek. Over the next few days, they worked together to repair the damage. Ryan taught Lyra how to use the tools, and Mai helped plant seeds near the back fence. The wind carried the smell of wood and earth. The bounty guild never returned. Maybe Ryan's message had worked, or maybe the forest had finally hidden them well enough. One evening, as the sun set in warm gold across the hills, they sat together on the porch steps. Mai leaned her head against Ryan's arm, her small fingers wrapped around his wrist. Lyra sat close by, her feet bare, her hair loose and glowing in the light. She watched the trees sway, a peaceful look on her face. "You gave us more than shelter," she said softly. "You gave us a chance to breathe again." Ryan looked out over the land. "You gave me something too." "I wasn't really living before I met you both," Mai giggled. "Now we're a real family," Ryan laughed. "Yes, a strange one, but real." They sat in silence for a while, watching the stars appear one by one. That night, Inside the cabin, Ryan tucked Mai into bed. She grabbed his hand and whispered, "Thank you for choosing us." "I think it was you who chose me," he replied. She smiled and closed her eyes. Lyra watched from the doorway. As Ryan stood and turned toward her, she reached for his hand. "We're not running anymore," she said. "No," Ryan whispered. "We're home." And for the first time in all their lives, that word truly meant something.